All right, back with original show here on this Tuesday night. And boy, Friday seems like such a long time ago, doesn't it?
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
Joe Squared tonight, Joe Fleming, pollster, Joe Cammarano, PC, political science professor, here to help us walk through the last 4 or 5 days. When I say Friday seems like a long time ago, Columbus Day weekend, I was off, some of you were off. It's kind of a funky holiday. But you know, the world was coming to an end with this video, and the talk radio line started to rip around 4 o'clock, and I just kind of put my feet up and said, all right, have at it. Here we go again. Is this the one? I don't know. This might be the one that ended Donald Trump's presidency. Maybe not. Who knows? But welcome aboard. Forget the rundown. Let's just get into this political race. Here's the headline from Friday. Yep, Trump recorded having extremely lewd conversation about women. We don't have to play that for you, do we? Nah, we're not going to. In fact, I don't even think Lexi gave it to me. I just remembered in my pre-production conversation. I don't even have the bus conversation. We have it? Oh, it's in the package. That's right. Sorry. We're just having a meeting on the air. Second headline here. The GOP tumbles toward anarchy. Yeah, well, I don't know what it's tumbling toward. Better minds than me will explain what it's tumbling toward. As if you needed a recap, here it is.
Donald Trump careened from lighthearted campaign shtick.
Do you want to go back to them, or do you want to stay with Donald Trump?
Trump.
To cliched confrontation.
Oh, she's crooked, folks. She's crooked as a $3 bill.
As he always does, Trump declared himself the victor at Sunday's debate.
I was getting beaten up for 72 hours on all the networks.
Trump treaded lightly around his vulgar and sexist comments about women in 2005 and redirected the controversy in former President Bill Clinton's direction.
Bill Clinton sexually assaulted innocent women, and Hillary Clinton attacked those women viciously.
In the video that continues to rock the campaign, Trump laughs about trying to seduce entertainment reporter Nancy O'Dell.
I moved on her like a bitch, but I couldn't get there, and she was married.
I released a statement on Saturday.
Last night, O'Dell broke her silence about Trump.
There is no room for objectification of women, or anyone for that matter, not even in the locker room.
A recent poll found more than half of registered voters believe Trump's comments should be an issue in the campaign. Over a third said they disqualify Trump from the presidency. Running mate Mike Pence said on Saturday Trump's remarks, quote, offended him and declined for 2 days to publicly defend Trump. After the debate, Pence climbed back on board.
He fought back and turned the focus to the choice that we face, and I'm proud to stand with Donald Trump.
How many showers a day you think he takes? Just to kind of get the... Yes?
It's got to be hard. It's got to be hard to be Mike Pence. He got himself into the trouble by saying yes. But yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
But by being a good soldier, he could be positioning himself for 2020, which is always a possibility.
Which is what we all been talking about. But you know, at some juncture, this stench. I mean, I think that's the bet that was hedged by Mike Pence. You know, maybe we run in. Maybe I end up being more of a force as a vice president because this guy's not paying attention to the details, and I can kind of watch him. And you know, if there's a partnership, maybe that was a fantasy. Then I think, you know what? Even if we lose, I stand as the standard bearer. But now the thing has become so yucky. Every time he has to stand up and defend, everyone knows he's doing it with his toes and fingers crossed. And so where does his integrity get lost in the whole thing?
Yeah, he was in trouble as governor. He was not very popular, and he would have had a very tough re-election bid anyway. And so I guess he figured this would be a way for him to build the resume, to at least make the argument that, hey, I served as governor, we had a surplus, and I was vice presidential candidate. But I think it's backfiring in the sense that the popularity as governor isn't very good, and he's now tied to Trump. And in 2020, people are going to remember that.
Let's not kid ourselves, though. He is the final linchpin in this whole thing. If he says uncle, it's formally over.
Well, just by taking 2 days before he came to Donald Trump's defense, that's sort of an uncle. You know, and I thought Sunday night Donald Trump might have sort of stopped the bleeding some until Paul Ryan came out yesterday and opened the cut wide open. So I think Pence is in a very difficult situation at this point. He's trying to be loyal to Trump, but at the same time, I think he knows it's a real uphill battle, and every day it's getting steeper and steeper.
Speaking of Pence and Trump, on Sunday night when they were, I'm not sure, we got more video than we can use here today. Maybe we don't have this, but just that's how the conversation goes. When Donald was asked about the difference between Pence and him on a major foreign policy issue in terms of Syria, and the like, I mean, the Donald's not very deft and nuanced anyway, but he more or less said, I haven't talked to him, and I disagree. I heard the I haven't talked to him in a tone that was kind of like, nor do I want to, right?
There's a way to say that. We disagree on this issue, but that's why I have Mike Pence here, because we're not always going to agree on all the issues. There are things that we're going to have disagreements on, but that's what's going to make a good administration. He handled it very poorly. You're correct.
Yeah. Look, Donald Trump is not your normal candidate, obviously. He has absolutely no understanding of the nuance that you need in order to sort of finesse these sorts of things. And I think he's right. Joe's right that Trump's a lousy candidate.
All right, let's go backwards. Friday. What was all of that?
Well, it's another one of Donald Trump's things that come from his past that has come forward that I think he believed never was going to happen because he never planned to run for public office. But now what's happening is they're building on top of each other. And this may have been the final domino that starts to tip it over. It seems to, by the response of the people in this country, it is the final domino at this point. But I think there's just been so much that people can take as far as Trump saying things and doing things that at some points it's going to break. It looks like it's starting to break now.
Yeah, I think Trump is going to get 35 to 40% no matter what he does. But I think getting to 50% is near impossible now, given sort of the reality that this is not a guy who can attract the majority of the American people.
Well, there's, it's funny. It just causes me. Never thought I was going to do this, but I got an email from a friend. I'll look it up as we talk. And he's a Trump not only supporter, but I mean, just thinks he's the only answer. And there's an aspect to all of this where Trump loyalists really feel that despite what they saw in that video, and despite what they've seen in daily behavior, that the media did this to him. That the media, okay, you happy now? You happy now? We had a chance not to have Hillary. We had a chance to be in a whole different place. We had a chance for change, but we're not going to get it now. Meaning they're kind of resigned to the idea that they're not going to, that this whole thing is over. And now there's,
I think they're starting to realize for Donald Trump to win 28 days from now, it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible at this point. The Electoral College is not going his way. Everything's breaking away from him. They had a lot of issues to deal with Hillary Clinton on. He was very close in the middle of September, but he's let it all get away from him by his own comments. It's nothing that she's done. A lot of it is stuff that he's done himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think this is the part of the campaign where you close the deal, and you have to go positive to close the deal. If you don't go positive, you're never going to really have people see you as somebody who's a reasonable chance. And so people are going to start abandoning him because he's just going to get more and more negative. And it doesn't work at the end.
I hope you and the rest of the never-Trumpers are satisfied. Enjoy the open border policies of the wackos on the left because it looks like you've gotten your way. You and your others hold your breath until you turn blue or you're blah, 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 and the media finally got Trump. That's...
I think, to be honest, I think this is a time for us to focus on people like your buddy, to be as compassionate, as understanding as we possibly can. Because really, they're going through a very difficult time.
I can promise you this guy doesn't want your compassion.
Yes, I know, which is why we need to give it to him. These are people who were wrong, and they don't like being wrong. They like Trump in part because Trump's the type of model that they want in many ways, except for the locker room stuff.
A lot of these people are people who have been totally frustrated with government, that they've supported Republicans over the years and have not seen change happen in the Congress, even though we have Republican Congress. And they see Donald Trump as somebody who's going to bring the change. And no matter what, they're staying with Donald Trump, and they'll be loyal to Donald Trump to the very end. But they really are frustrated with the U.S. government, I believe.
All right, when we come back, we're going to take a look at the numbers. Joe's expert at looking at these numbers, and the numbers, well, they've changed. Stay with us.
This was locker room talk. I'm not proud of it. I apologize to my family. I apologize to the American people.
Some smart marketing person will have a locker room talk brand out sooner than later. Hillary Clinton yesterday dug into the locker room talk.
You know what's happened today, which is so interesting, is that a lot of athletes and coaches from the NBA, from Major League Baseball, from the NFL and more, have been coming forward, tweeting. They've been saying, no, that's not what happens in our locker rooms. And I just happen to think that our athletes and our coaches know a lot more about what happens in locker rooms than Donald Trump does.
You know, once a campaign competition gets to this level, it's hard to extract yourself and find higher ground of discourse, right,
Yeah.
Professor? It's really hard to do that because, man, there's such a serious set of issues that this country's got to face, and that we are immersed in this. I think it's got everybody feeling kind of sick to the stomach, whether you support one candidate or the other.
Right. And I think Hillary Clinton is not a natural politician. If she was, she would have turned already toward that reconciliation sort of, let's talk about the high ground. Yes, she dropped that line, but she needs to start behaving as if she's going to fix the problems that she's identified and just let the rest unfold.
Well, is that because she's not yet sure that she's won this thing?
I think you're correct, Ian. She sees the campaign in a strong position. She sees the electoral map, very good for her, but she's not over the top yet. She knows things could change. Why? She has a high negative number to start with. So people can turn on her very easily because they don't like her to start with. Right now, people are voting for her because they really don't like Donald Trump in the sense they don't think he's capable of being the president. So she's getting the votes by default. Johnson is not picking up the votes which people thought he would at first. So she's benefiting from that. But I think as we get closer to the election day, I think she's going to probably try to switch over more, talk more policy, more what she's going to do.
Well, it's interesting. So here's the headline, the Wall Street Journal's latest poll, and of course Joe's always got polling data past the headlines. He reads those things like I read box scores. Hillary Clinton leads, and here's the latest polling data. 46-35 in a four-way race and 52-38 in a two-way race. At what point do pollsters like you comfortably say it's over?
Well, again, you're not so much looking at the national polls, you're looking at each individual state because there's electoral maps. There's 50 elections we're dealing with here. In a lot of those swing states like Florida, she's now winning. In Pennsylvania, she's winning by almost 9 points. Colorado, 7 points. Michigan, 7 points. Virginia, 7.5. North Carolina, she's up by a little bit. And these are states, some of these states, Trump should win. North Carolina, Romney won 4 years ago. If Trump can't win North Carolina, I don't see a path at all for the presidency. And right now, he's trailing there.
And even if he does, isn't Pennsylvania really kind of rolling out to be the
That's
final,
always been her firewall.
But that's the final straw. If he was able to make ground on Pennsylvania,
right,
he could flip this whole thing.
And he was making ground on Pennsylvania. In September, he was closing that gap to the point where it was very close to even. But now it's changing. And a lot of these poll numbers do not reflect what's happened since Friday, because this is an average of like 5 or 6 polls.
In the old days, a revelation like we see through WikiLeaks and her commentary to Wall Street types behind closed doors or in speech rooms, where she nuanced more or less said, hey, listen, I talked to you guys this way and I talked to the general public that way, Abe Lincoln references aside like she offered in the debate, would be damaging to her. But it's been so far, this salaciousness is so far above the radar, and that stuff is so far below the consciousness of the public, right?
It's the old, mundane, ordinary campaign stuff.
Right.
And this year is the entertainment campaign, and Trump wins every time.
But he loses, so this is the irony.
Of course.
You live by the sword, you die by the sword,
But
right?
his ratings are better. And that's what matters to him. Let's be honest, Donald Trump doesn't want to be president. He doesn't like the discipline that's required to do the job of chief executive. He's now stuck with the Republican nomination. All he wants is the attention. This is perfect for him.
You believe that?
Well, I think he wants
Joe
attention.
and I have been talking about that forever. I just want your
I think
take
he
on
wants
that.
to be president. I really do. You don't come this far running for president just to get publicity. I think he would like to be the president, but he wants to do it a totally different way, which I don't think it looks like the country's ready for at this time. He can't get above that 42% mark. Even when things are going well, 42% is not enough to win the presidency.
See, this is the big psychological exercise, I think, in trying to evaluate him and whether he wants the presidency. His lack of preparedness in debate number one indicated to me that if he wasn't ready to do what he needed to do to offer compelling arguments in that debate, that maybe he doesn't want it. The other night, he was more in his alley. You know, when they told him prosecute a case in this particular debate, that was more up his alley. You know, be tough, walk around. By the way, it hasn't gotten a lot of attention, some, but not a lot. His stomping around that stage was predatory.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was as uncomfortable and undisciplined, and so to you, but it was TV show material. It will be what you could launch a network for, correct?
Exactly.
Bringing the 4 women to the debate. That was TV. I mean, that was something unprecedented in presidential debates. But I think that backfired because he didn't look presidential by doing that. He looked, like you said, a TV person.
Right.
And that's what he doesn't want to do if he wants to be the president.
Right. I think politicians have known that you have to entertain in order to get to the point where you can do the politics. I don't think Donald Trump understands there is a fundamental difference between politics and entertainment. And I think what we're seeing is him doing what he wants to do because his instinct leans that way, and he's never going to change, and why should we expect that?
When we come back, we'll talk about how we actually live together through this next month. Stay with us.
On the day that I was in the Situation Room watching the raid that brought Osama bin Laden to justice, he was hosting Celebrity Apprentice. So if he wants to talk about what we've been doing the last 30 years, bring it on.
Okay, I'll tell you, everyone's edges are frayed right now. Look at this. This is the chief of staff from the governor, Brett Smiley. He was, a pretty well-behaved guy. Trump is the blowhard that you get seated next to at a dinner party and just spouted off uninformed opinions. I understand his point of view, but he didn't swear. He wrote that word, and I guess there might have been some other expletive deleted some previous tweets. He then followed up. Somebody must have pulled him aside, or he got his head on straight. Got reminded to do the Michelle Obama thing. I regret it. I don't mean to pick on Brett Smiley. I don't think we need to be going after Brett Smiley. I might talk about it on the radio today, which was already happening because we do this after we tape the show, the radio. But social media changes behavior. I'm convinced that social media changes behavior. Donald Trump defended his use of social media in the debate, in debate 2. It's accelerated a guy like him. It's gas on a flame, isn't it? Or a flame, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if I was Brett Smiley, when your opponents are destroying themselves, don't go say something that's going to take it away from them.
But the point is that everybody's on edge.
Yes.
My buddies' emails have gotten worse. They're usually really good, but they're really mean-spirited. Yeah. I've had some you have to be very careful and your point, be kind to each other. Mm-hmm. We need to be kind to each other the next 30 days because this country is going through a very, very, very strange moment.
I don't think you're going to see people being kind to each other the next 30 days. I think you're going to see the Trump people, as Jill said earlier, really be aggressive in the sense of what they're doing. I think Donald's going to come out with some more stuff. He's basically doing the scorched earth. I think at this point when he realizes the numbers may not be there for him.
Well, who do you bring along? Who puzzles me through this entire thing? Rudy Giuliani. I cannot believe that Rudy Giuliani has thrown away his 9/11 leadership legacy and what he did to turn around the city of New York in so many ways by actually contributing to a strategy and speaking up for bringing those 4 women into the family box for the debate. They got thwarted, but he talked about how he was part of that effort to do so. I think it's one of the saddest things in the world. How far do these guys go if the earth is, how much more earth could be scorched is my question.
Well, again, with Donald Trump so far, we don't know. Every time we think we've seen the last thing, something else comes out.
But does he scorch on his own? I mean, who's going to be with him scorching?
Well, I think Giuliani's reputation has been tarnished for a while, but it's gotten very tarnished of late. And everything he says lacks credibility now, and I don't think he'll ever understand that. I do have to say that I am worried about what happens after, regardless of who wins. Let's say Trump wins. How are we going to move forward in a way that doesn't lead to the barroom brawls or sometimes possibly even sort of real violence against each other?
Well, democracy is ugly by its nature, but...
Well, I think we've gotten into this all or nothing sort of mentality that is really dangerous, because if we lose, then there's nothing worth restraining ourselves over.
But I think if you go back onto 2000, we had an election that went to December, and it was decided basically by the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. The Democrats didn't go crazy. There weren't riots in the street. You accept what comes down. But I think we're going to see that this time.
I think your points, both your points are excellently made. The thing is, that was a vote count. I mean, I think we understood that was competition in litigation all the way to the end to make sure that you left no stone unturned. This is venom. This is the human condition. This is all those kind of things. And even if Hillary wins, and she's likely to, right, Mr. Pollster?
Right now, she is. But as with polling, it's a snapshot.
Well, I don't know what the heck could happen between now and Election Day.
Well, for example, the stuff that came out on Trump on Friday. Before Friday, nobody knew that was coming, and look how it's turned the race from a race that could have been somewhat tight to now really wide open.
We'll have this conversation in early November again. Invite you back to talk about this, but winning a campaign and governing are two very different things.
Right.
I mean, she's damaged as
I think that's why I think she needs to start closing it and being positive, go positive, because assuming she's going to be president, she's going to have an enormously hostile Congress to work with. She may get the Senate back, may not. She's probably not going to get the House back. And we don't need any more of what we've had the past 12, 14 years.
But if you go positive too early, you can lose it. I've seen politicians in Rhode Island in the past who have gone negative in their campaigns, and then about 10, 15 days out, they stop and they go positive, and they end up losing. You've got to keep reinforcing your negative message. And I think that's what the Clinton campaign's doing. Maybe not so much her campaign, but her PACs might be doing that. They want to keep the pressure on Donald Trump. They don't want to let him get back up in this race.
What happens in debate number 3?
I was telling Joe, I'm going to tell my students not to watch it. If they want to watch it for the entertainment, go and do it. But I don't think there's going to be anything of educational value or of informational value.
Well, that's a whole show.
Well, that's where I think Hillary could possibly, at that point, start talking about the issues and what she wants to do, and try to show where Trump doesn't have a knowledge of the issues. Try to play it that way, and try to take the higher road in the third debate. But again, that'll probably be the least watched debate at this point, unless something else drastic happens over the next week or so.
Well, the first one was 80+ million. This was 60+ million.
Right.
Still bigger than the second debate last time around.
It was.
These are still substantial numbers.
Oh yeah, Donald Trump again goes back to what he said about the TV person. He's drawing people to TV. There's no question about that. We'll see what the turnout is on November 8th. If he's drawing more voters out in this country, or is it the same as in the past, or less?
You guys have been following this stuff for a long time. Agree? Never seen anything like it in your lives?
No.
Never. Hope I never do.
Thanks.
Again.
Appreciate it. Final word when we come back. Tomorrow night we'll have a Brown professor who will talk about the constitutionality of this election. And I'm not exactly sure there is any. But you got to keep in mind that there are some rules of the road in terms of how this place is going to be governed and what candidate has a correct or incorrect view on the Constitution. We'll see you on the radio at 3 tomorrow on WPRO. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Good night.